Today, I want to talk to you about how you can take a single synth patch like this and with it create an entire preset library. And we're going to do that using Instrument Rack. Now, a question that I get often from students is why even use instrument racks? Why waste time setting up macros? There are a whole host of reasons why you should use instrument rack and why you should set up macros. But today we're going to focus on one in particular, and that is a super overlooked feature of instrument rack, which is the macro randomization function. This tool allows you to quickly turn a single patch into a preset library. And I'm going to show you exactly why that's useful and how to do it today. Now, I'm not going to spend a whole ton of time explaining how I created this synth patch. I am going to walk you through what is in the contents of the rack, but as far as the actual construction of the patch itself, we're not covering that today. But I am giving away this rack for free on my website, so you can pause the video right now, go and download that, open up a live session, and then follow along. So let's go ahead and dive right in. So I have here an instrument rack with an instance of drift, a reverb preset that I created, Ableton's gentle squeeze compressor preset, and then utility and limiter. All of that is nested into a rack that has 8 macros set up. I have a low pass filter. I've got the shape of oscillator 1. I have the drift control. The space macro is controlling the stereo width of drift, as well as the wet dry of the reverb. I've got the sync rate for envelope 2 set to macro 5. I've got the LFO amount control set to macro 6. LFO time is set to macro 7. And then the gain on the utility at the very end of the chain is set to macro 8 to control overall volume. Now, I chose each of these parameters because there is a range of expression available within them. For example, if I hit play on this default patch and I start to play around with the filter cutoff, it is going to have a pronounced effect on the sound. Every single one of these parameters were assigned to a macro because they have a similar pronounced effect. And the key to this kind of library building approach is to be selective about your macros, in that each macro has a similar degree of importance and influence upon the patch itself. It requires you to be not only thoughtful about the sound design of the initial patch, but it requires you to be thoughtful about what is the most essential parameters on that patch. Now, once you've taken the time to set up these macros, the fun can begin. One of the best features of Instrument Rack is the ability to save snapshots or presets of your preset. And so if you're unfamiliar with this feature of Instrument Rack, you find it by selecting the Show Hide Macro Variations toggle. It's going to be pretty much at the middle of all the toggles on the left-hand side of Instrument Rack. And from there, you can create variations that save the positions of the macros that you have set currently. You're essentially creating presets. And so I have 3 set up here. So I have my default. One that I'm calling Broken Brass. If I just double click on it, all the parameters change. And then a third one that I'm calling Gentle Warble. Now you can create macro variations like this through methodical testing, but you can also create them through a really fun process of discovery. And you do that using this random button up on the top of the device title bar that so often gets overlooked. And by selecting it, all it simply does is randomize all of the parameters. Let's hear what that does. Great, that sounds very good. So I want to save that. I'm going to hit new. And when you hit new, that automatically captures whatever macro positions are present. I'm going to right click on it, rename, and I'm going to call this slow motion. Great, I can continue doing this as much as I want. That sounds great to me. I'm going to hit new. I'm going to rename, and I'm going to call this one laid back eighths, because the LFO is completely off, but we are then driving everything with the cycle envelope that is set to a rate of eighth notes. And the cool thing is you can, of course, adjust anything further. So for example, let's hit random and let's adjust something on whatever's come up here. So let's speed up the LFO. Let's really max out drift. Let's crank up space. And let's play around with the filter cutoff. Now you might have noticed that every single time I hit randomization, the gain control isn't changing. And that's because I opted to exclude this macro from randomization. Why? Because I have an instance of utility at the end of the chain here, and this can add up to 35 decibels of gain to the signal. I don't want to randomly boost the signal 35 decibels. And so I can then use that to manually set a level. And in this instance, with this very low, murky sound, which is really quite cool, it's kind of quiet. So I need to bring up the amplitude. That sounds great. So I'm going to go ahead then and hit new, and let's rename this one Undertow. Let's make another variation, and I'll show you how you can update it after the fact. So let's hit random again. Really like that one. So I'm going to hit new. I'm going to call that VHS. Kind of has like an old tape kind of feel to it. And so, of course, now that macro variation is saved. But let's play around and find some adjustments with it. okay, I like that. That's great. I want to update VHS to sound like that anytime I select that variation. And we'll notice that next to VHS, there is a little asterisk on the left-hand side. So that is just a visual indicator to help you know that the macros have changed from what the preset was. So you can just save over and overwrite that preset just by clicking the Overwrite Macro Variations button here. And so if I do that, VHS is now this sound. And at any point, I can go through and just click and change the sound at will. And so just by taking the time to set up some macro variations, I have created a preset library from just a single synth patch. This is a super useful sound design exercise that takes minutes at most to set up. But then I can save this to my library, and then at any point in the future, I can call up any of these presets, and it reduces friction down the line for me when producing. And that's the key to this kind of technique. So if this technique blew your mind a bit today and was something that you weren't aware of, you might be interested in my new course, Beginner Synthesis in Ableton Live, in which I teach the fundamentals of synthesis using the same great stock plugins in Live that you already own. You can learn more at the link in the description. Additionally, I want to remind you that you can download the preset library from this video for free from my website. That link is in the description as well. Till next time.